yeah, word. Wanna hear it, wanna talk about it, word. Wanna hear it, wanna talk about it. Know it's all about the word. You know it's word. Welcome back, everybody. It's Word, the podcast. I'm your host, G-Stylez, back with episode 6. It's been a while, but I'm back with a very special guest today, and a DJ and volunteer DJ as well, who does a really awesome show on KRZA. Jason Maclean, thank you for being in the studio with me today.
Well, thanks a lot, Gerald. It's great to be here. I appreciate you inviting me out for a podcast. This is exciting. I've never done one before, and so I'm enjoying already the environment and a chance to talk with you again, because we've had some fun conversations over at the radio station here in Alamosa at KRZA, a place that I have an affection for at this point. Donate when you can. It's such a great station. A las ocho in the morning. Gerald, you've been doing a great job with those interviews. So in any case, I feel really privileged to have been invited out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you, and we always have really good conversations about music, and you have like an aspect of music that a lot of people that I don't know have, because I'm, around mostly hip-hop artists and rock and roll people and a little bit of Spanish here and there, but you're into a lot of house music. You do a show called House at Last.
Absolutely. I just called it House at Last, like kind of being home at last when you're returning from a vacation. It feels so good. I love house music. I like being home and playing house music. I was doing that more and more, playing records at home, doing my own recordings so that I could listen to my records out and about. And that's, kind of my quick story about how I dropped in on Gerald a couple years ago, one cold day in March, and said, hey, I'm doing these recordings. What are you guys doing over here? And that's how we met.
That's awesome, though, man. We kind of ran into each other on a few occasions, and then we finally kind of did a gig finally together too. We did a 8 Grand Fest. It was about a year and a half ago or so, and that was a pretty awesome show. We had a bunch of different people. We had some rock bands, a little bit of hip hop in there, some EDM, and then we had you spinning records on the side. And what's cool about what you do is you spin nothing but vinyl. That's what's pretty rare around here. A lot of people use different sites like Spotify or whatever to play their music, but you're actually sitting there and you're doing the old school DJ thing where you're pulling them out and actually playing them right there in front of everybody manually.
That's the fun aspect for me. I love the old analog vinyl. I've been collecting it all my life for my own personal collection, and now it's a fun chance to just play some records for people when the occasion arises. So that was fun when you invited me out. That hip-hop party was a lot of fun. We had great live bands. In fact, I ran into one of them yesterday in Toto. So you might want to check them out over at St. Ives on Main Street in Alamosa this Saturday night. I bet they're going to be putting on a killer show. They've got Rockin' Rob out there as an incredible DJ. He's been doing it in the area for a long time now, and when In Toto played out there at that 50th anniversary hip hop party, what was it, August 11th, a year and a half ago, it was a great night. The weather was beautiful. Centennial Park. I spun some hip hop records. I put down a recording, number 45, for the KRZA House at Last show. So it'll be coming up. It's in the queue about a year from now or whatnot. In Toto just did an incredible job. I hear they've reformed a little bit. Their sound is a little bit more punk these days. Oh, nice. So prepare yourself for kind of a college punk sound. Go check them out at St. Ives this Saturday night would be my recommendation. If I wasn't doing a party myself that night, I'd be over there.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to be gigging throughout the rest of the year, too, which is going to be cool because, they do a lot of really cool things here in Alamosa lately, at least. They do, like, the first Fridays, every first Friday of the month, where they have different bands or different DJs performing there, like, at a block party.
Oh, yeah, First Fridays. That's a great thing to talk about as well, because we've got not only the Alamosa Chamber of Commerce, is what I've come to understand, but we have a whole crew called Visit Alamosa. Oh, yeah. And they organize an event on Main Street where there's all sorts of stuff going on. And they've invited me out already 3 times. I'm not sure if you realize that, but I've DJ'd in front of the Purple Pig on the street, blaring my house music at traffic on Main Street, and I just have an absolute blast. One time, so the Purple Pig out front in Treasure Alley, the St. Ives right there, and also in front of Altitude Appliance, and those guys were so cool. They grilled dogs out there on one of those green eggs and were feeding me all night long out there on the street while I was blaring music.
Yeah, I remember them doing that for one of the concerts over there.
Yeah, First Fridays is a lot of fun in Alamo, so check it out right there on Main Street.
And you're pretty much part of a lot of stuff. You're always telling me about all these different events that I don't even really realize. So you're also doing like DJing at all kinds of different spots. People ask you to come and do stuff all over the place.
Yeah, so I mean, if I were to share some of the recent stuff I'm excited about, tomorrow I've got some records like some Bob Marley and some other great reggae hits, some old Todd Henry, and I'll be at Roasted. Roasted is a special place here in the region. You can travel a little south out of Alamosa to the town of Antonito. Check out the little dispensary lounge. They have consumption on premises approved, and so I spin records down there and people kind of float through. You can relax. There's even a free play pool table. Come and hang out. We're trying to do that on Thursdays between roughly 11 a.m. and let's say 3 p.m. depending on schedule.
And then you were also telling me a little bit before the podcast about doing some stuff in Santa Fe possibly, right?
Yeah, there's development in Santa Fe. Apparently the lodge is being rebranded as Hacienda something or other, and they have an event venue there, and they just feel there's an option, other than, let's say, Meow Wolf, which is a really fun place to go see shows at as far as I'm concerned. But maybe there needs to be more options out that way, and they're talking about maybe Bluegrass Thursdays and House Party Saturdays, and so they're installing a big sound system apparently, and they want to have me out to spin some records. I want to check that out for sure.
Well, that's going to be awesome. I know Santa Fe does a lot of cool stuff, especially Meow Wolf, like you said. I've seen Talib Kweli perform there before, and I went a few times just to go take my kids to go check it out, just to see the house. Like
that Meow Wolf experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've jumped down there for concert, go see Modest Yahoo.
Oh, nice.
Oh, what an incredible show.
I can imagine.
And what a neat venue. And what a great crowd. It was just packed, and I was really glad I got tickets early on when I found out about that. Just really, really amazing show. I actually haven't done the Meow Wolf experience. I've only heard about it, and now I've been catching my eye on what the Meow Wolf in Denver's doing with a lot of dance stuff, and it gets me excited because that's what I've been kind of gravitating towards is the house dance music, and I kind of want to go check that out next. But other things that are going on that I'm excited about, I would say, I don't know if you know this, but I've been, maybe for the past 6 months, every other Friday at lunch, I go DJ the San Luis Care Center.
Oh, no, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and there's a great group of people. I go into the dining hall. Maybe 50 people will be served lunch. The wait staff and all of the wonderful people that make that place run, the activities, director and crew, and all of the, the care folks that are professionals and work hard day in and day out. We kind of have fun. I want to say it can get upwards like 70 people, and I'll be playing some 45s from the 50s and 60s on through some fun stuff from the 70s, and then I'll get into like an 80s remix vibe, like new wave or something, and I'm trying to get a flavor for what people like. Sometimes I'll do a country set. In any case, I've been having fun out there, and they indulge me really well. The last request was for some George Michael, so I dug through all my bins, and I plucked out something like 5 or 6 George Michael, Wham, tracks, and there was a couple people that were really happy. Jackie's birthday, so we were celebrating a bit. In any case, that's one of the things I like to do as far as a DJ goes. It's kind of a semi-volunteer gig over at the care center, because one day I was delivering pizza and I said, hey, if you ever want some help getting these guys to boogie down, you let me know. And she took me up on it, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, that's awesome, man. I think any way you can get it out there is good. What's incredible is you have this massive amount of records. How many records do you think you have altogether?
I would guess right now between the little antique store booth that I call record store, my little record store concept, out there in Walsenburg at 605 Main Street in the Antique Avenue right there in the window. You might check that out sometimes, right next to the outdoor amphitheater in Miners Plaza, catty corner from the Serendipity Coffee Shop.
Oasis, right?
Yeah, I just call Oasis Records, and that's how it started for me. I had decided to kind of part with some of my collection, put it in an antique store booth, and the next thing you know, I started promoting that I had those records for sale, and it turned into DJing here and there. I'm kind of open to doing things. I did a block party for Bullfrogs and Butterflies, which is now relocated right next to St. Ives on Main Street. from the old wet paintbrush spot. If you were familiar with that, we did a big block party fashion show when the kids were showcasing the fall fashion. So that was a blast. And Amy Hazlitt's a great business owner, and I think she's one of the strongest new members of the Alamos Chamber of Commerce, if I'm not mistaken. She's got a great store. So there's good things happening on Main Street. Businesses just side by side that are really, to me, performing well and are great for our community. Other things that I'm promoting right now would be the Dune Valley Distillery.
Oh, yeah, that's a great place, too.
Have you been there?
Only like once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I like it. If you like vodka, they're making amazing, not only potato vodka, of course, because of our region with the abundance of potatoes, but they're really doing some good quality stuff, including a locally grown quinoa vodka, which I just thought was very unique. I was excited to try it and really pleasantly surprised at how much flavor and how great it tasted. I want to go back and try a little bit more of that. Really great folks. Nick Chambers is running that place, and he's been great to me so far. He's excited about the records. I've spun out there a couple times for private parties, basically, and now he's talking about cleaning up the basement and letting me pump some underground house music for a new spirit tasting party. And so I would stay tuned on that. I've also been booked out there for Valentine's Day. So I'm curating roughly already 150 love songs between my 45s and my 12-inch remixes. And I'll be out there from 3 until 9. You have to RSVP for a romantic dinner. They're doing, Chef Ryan is preparing these amazing locally grown meals, and what they're doing out there is just really fantastic. Between the distilled spirits, the wonderful environment, the old converted school in Mosca. So you're looking for the Dune Valley Distillery in Mosca, just 15 minutes north of Alamosa, up Highway 17. It's just a few blocks off 17. I would encourage you to check it out. So I'll be out there on the 14th of February celebrating Valentine's.
You're just doing everything all over the place.
I'm having a lot of fun with it. Might be out at the T Road Brewing out in Crestone before too long.
That's going to be awesome. I've actually been wanting to try that out myself. I've seen a bunch of different, events happening over there.
Yeah, when I just stopped in for a beer and visited with Susan, chatted her up about what was going on out there and a couple of the locals, and they talked about the acoustics and how it used to be a bigger place before they had apartments upstairs, but it's got a nice layout, and I could see comfortably, doing a nice event there. And it seems like that whole region is just amazing because people are in a good vibe for some good live music. I hear it really carries through the town well. So if you're going to create a lot of music from the T Road Brewing, it's going to just cast in every direction because of the way it's positioned there. And Susan seems really open to doing a number of things. I think she's doing an open mic night. She was doing like a speakeasy themed party last time I talked to her. So they've got some fun stuff happening out there. I want to get out there again. I've only been out there once, but I had a really nice time, and I'd love to go see some live music out there.
Well, I've seen live music in Crestone before, and it does have a lot of really cool atmosphere. Really, is what it is. Yeah. People from the whole town tend to go to all the events that are happening there. So it's not like some of these places where you throw a huge event and only like a handful of people come out.
Right.
So I think they're a little more community inclusive, I guess you can say.
Yeah, and maybe appreciating the arts and music a little bit more. I also am enamored with the architecture out there, and I've gone hiking out there. A couple of the trails, it's just beautiful, and it's a nice little town to get away to and maybe go enjoy a drink and some live music and beautiful scenery. The architecture, apparently one of the things I learned at the bar there is in, I think, August each year, and you probably know about this because you interview a lot of people, Gerald. They kind of do a showcase of different types of architecture like cob and aircrete and hemp buildings and
could be like
straw bale.
Crestone artists maybe tour.
Yeah, so it's about building materials and doing things that are a little bit more, ecologically, sound or whatnot.
Sounds about right.
energy sources and stuff, experimenting with methane conversion and whatnot.
Yeah, they do a lot of different spiritual and scientific things out there, I guess you can say.
Right.
Also, backing up, we never got the answer. So, how many records do you think you have altogether?
Yeah, apparently I dodged that question. I started thinking about I might have 300, 400, 500-ish in the antique store booth. Try to keep it at about that 500 mark. And then I've got some in storage. I've got some in my home studio. If I were to put my arms around it, I'd probably guess for you about 4,000-ish, maybe more.
I kind of figured so, because you said that you can put a whole show together and bundle it up and put it away for a whole year without even having to use it again.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because the bundling is something that I started as a way to kind of dive into my collection once I got into recording. And so it was a sorting process at first. I started recording some of my favorite tracks for myself and setting them on the shelf, and I would actually shrink wrap the setup as I recorded. And I dropped in on KRZA at about number 10. And I was excited about the recent recording. I had, if it's about 10 to 12 songs, one track from each record, makes an hour set, then, after 10 sets, I had 100 records on the shelf that were shrink wrapped up with numbers 1 through 10 on them to match the digital set that I'd laid down and was enjoying listening to in the truck or whatever. Maybe at work. At this point, I've got 60 on a shelf, so I'm sitting there looking at a shelf of about 600 records that I've recorded for KRZA, each wrapped up as hour-long sets, and I haven't touched them since. So that's a couple years worth of recordings, and I'll tell you what, I miss a lot of those records.
I'm sure you do.
I was playing them like crazy up until the point when they got sacrificed and locked down to the recording process. Nothing saying I can't unshrink wrap them and play them till my heart's content, but I've been doing this process now for a couple of years. I originally guessed I might be able to do 50 recordings, and then I'd kind of run dry on music I was excited about. But the good news is I've recorded 60, and I think I can do another 40.
Wow.
And so I'm hoping to hit that 100 mark with kind of my current collection if I kind of slice and dice it up and try to come up with some good sets. But the goal was no real redundancies. It kind of controls that aspect. I'm not just going to get mixed up and be like, oh, yeah, I used that on the 7th recording, and now here it is number 30, and I forgot what I played. So this is a sorting process. So I'm
Makes sense.
Kind of organized about my recording now that I've dove into my collection.
Well, when you have that much of a collection, I mean, that's an easy process right there to keep you from going back and redoing the same song again.
Yeah, it's kind of emotional when you love playing a record and then you're not going to touch it for maybe a year, 2 or 3 or whatever. And so it's a sacrificial type of feeling when you lay down a recording. So I try to keep them limited, but I have done 60. And since we're talking about that, one of the aspects I think has value is every once in a while I'll do a recording on site. And so it kind of adds life to that particular recording because it allows me to promote a business. Let's say one of my earliest, business owners that is really wonderful to me, warm, inviting, welcoming, and just said, oh, you're DJing? Come on in. And I want to pay you, and I want to feed you free beers and come and have fun. Show me what you're doing. And I just thought that was really awesome. Her name's Aubrey, and she has the Crafty Canary out there in Walsenburg. And so I went in there and I did a recording along with my live vinyl DJ spinning. And so we can always look back to the Crafty Canary mix that was recorded live at the event. And now it's in the queue as something like number 24, I think. So it'll play 6 months from now. And when that comes on KRZA, I'll go to Aubrey and I'll say, hey, this Saturday is when your show's on.
Nice.
The one we did 2 years ago or whatever. I also ended up DJing and recording another set later on when she celebrated her 5th year anniversary of being in business. So we spun some records that afternoon too.
Well, I'm sure you have tons of different genres of records then if you have that many, right?
Yes, I try to collect a pretty good flavor range because I love a range of music. So it's really the music I love. I've got a whole bin of just Grateful Dead records, Jerry Garcia Band, as an example. And when I say a bin, that holds quite a few records.
Yeah.
I do these bins that maybe hold 100 records. And so I kind of have different veins of music that I just absolutely love. I love the house music, though, and I figure for the radio anyway, and for the good portion of my collection that I have collected that seems special compared to a lot of collections, that's what I would dive into most. And what I've been really surprised about is that there seems to be a resurgence. Either that or I'm just tapping into it more. But the house music is coming on strong. As an example, I just put Orbital's Halcyon that I plucked out of Crossroads in Oregon about 5 years ago at a premium price, but I had to have it, put it in a bin to play. And then when I went and saw Tinzo and JoJo at the Ogden last Friday night, that was the first track they blew the house up with. And they went on to play other tracks that I've been playing for people like lately. And so I feel like I've tapped in, although they're even calling their sets things like nostalgic house sets. And they're doing things like the 49ers. They did Touch Me, and I just put that one in my bin. But I've got the original 1990 remixes.
Yeah.
And they're getting some of the newer remixes, and they're the new remix artists that are coming on strong on the scene that are remixing the music that I love and I've been just wearing out. And so I feel like there must be a niche for it. It's coming on a little bit stronger with like people like Coco and Breezy, who I've seen a couple times now. They're spinning a lot of the same music I've been spinning. And it's the younger generation, but they seem to be embracing some of this older house music that I've been just absolutely loving playing for myself.
You're already kind of like in touch with a lot of the bands before they even become popular kind of already, because you're in tune with it way ahead of time, it seems like.
Well, I mean, hopefully it's been popular all along for the last 30 years that I've been enjoying it. There's got to be a lot of people out there that have always appreciated it, and the people who were originally excited about it back then when I kind of missed the original wave and then later dove into the house section, decided this is some amazing, it's like a sea of amazing music I didn't know, and it's been, because that's just one of the things that I picked up as a hobby. Mm-hmm. Going into big record stores, diving into a section of music, going over to the turntable, because I love records, and seeing what I like, taking home what I had to have, and over the years that's grown into a pretty amazing collection. But now all of a sudden there seems to be this younger generation that's come along that's like, I love all this music too, and like commandeering it and remixing the hell out of it all of a sudden. Yeah. And it's really exciting because there's like really amazing sounds coming out right now. I feel like every time I grab one of my records and throw it on the turntable, I look on Spotify now, and it's being remixed heavily by some great artist. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a big resurgence, I think, on the house music. So I think it's timely to have this show. I think it's a good timing for it.
And by the way, his show is House at Last, and that's it's usually the fourth Saturday of every month from 8 to 10 p.m., and that's on KRZA 88.7 FM. If you're in the Valley, or if you're in northern New Mexico, you can pick it up in that. Or go to KRZA.org. You listen to it live if you're anywhere around the world. So I do have people listening all over the world out there. So, make sure you tune into that. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, where are you from originally then?
So I was born in San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
I grew up right near the coastline in Pacifica, Lindemar Beach, if you're familiar. Really great sunsets out there. Really great beach for tide pooling and surfing.
Are you a surfer?
I did start surfing at an early age in Santa Cruz in my young teens. As soon as I could get into a car, I went down and rented a board and a wetsuit and got right out there in the cold northern coastline, water, and hacked away at it and had a blast, and always had dreams of doing things like going to Hawaii or something like that and really hitting the nicer warm waves. The best I got was later in life. I went down to Puerto Vallarta and hopped up to Sausalito and grabbed a board and went out there on those nice gentle warm waves and just had a blast. Nice. So it's just more of an occasional hobby thing. It's kind of like snowboarding. I do it as much as I can, but what does that mean? Once a year, once every couple of years or something?
I go snowboarding every year when I got to go up to the tower to go fix our transmitter. No, I'm just no, I wish I could snowboard up there. That'd make it way easier to deal with. I did go snowshoeing, though, last year, so hopefully that's not the case this year. You have some pretty cool stories, speaking about where you're from. Last time I was talking about where you're from, you were telling me a couple of things that you dealt with before you moved away. One of them was that he got in a big car accident with a celebrity, right?
Right.
I'll let you tell the story, but
Yeah, and honestly, I bounced around the U.S. a little bit. I lived up in the Seattle area a couple of years when I was younger, and I lived here and there, but graduated high school in Northern California. So I wasn't always in the Bay Area, but when I was younger, I was right there next to the beach till I was about 5 years old. I mentioned to Gerald, especially because we're into music and we're talking music, and I threw out a tidbit the other day, and it was making him laugh because in the mid-'90s, I was in a car accident in San Francisco with the lead singer of Green Day, Billy Joe, out of all people. And my friends laugh because I've always loved music, and I'm talking about music. I'm trying to go to as many shows as I can. And for some reason, like even things that occur like accidents, it would be some celebrity. And it was, I want to say, and I'm no expert on the history of Billy Joe and Green Day, but I want to say it was around 96, if I remember right, shortly after Dookie came out. And
he was popular, yeah.
Yeah, it was a 3-car accident. There was some contributory negligence on a couple people, and I was, including me. And I was trying to get over to the airport to actually hit Colorado. I had a DJ friend who was getting married, and I really wanted to be at the wedding and spin some records and have fun and see these guys I'd been missing, and it was a great reason to get out to Colorado. So I was flying over to Denver from San Francisco. I had to pick up a book at a bookstore that I just had to have downtown before I caught 101 and swung around to the airport and caught that flight. And I was rushing through a yellow light, one-way system there at 5th and Howard, and which is just a huge intersection. Parked cars along all sides, and in any case, guy jumped out. I hit his nose, and both of us slammed into Billy Joe's 4Runner, which he later said he only had about 2 days.
Oh, man.
I'll tell you what, in full punk rock regalia, that guy came flying over the hood just like out of a Starsky and Hutch movie. To have a punk rocker coming at you and not happy that you've just basically like T-boned him, along with this other guy. Like 2 cars have smashed into you at the same time, and all you're doing is leaving a red light. I can only imagine how he felt, but the shock was there, and the quickest route to me was straight over the hood, and that's exactly what he was doing. It was pretty cool. Before long, the cops were coming, the accident report had to be filled out, all the normal protocol right there at a busy intersection with us basically out in the middle of it, stopping everything. When the first person yelled, "It's Billy Joe," a lot of people turned, and the next, within minutes, there was a big crowd. So we dealt with a big crowd. Lots of people wanted to engage and talk. The police, that whole scene, they had little crowd control, so they had extra presence. In any case, that was an ordeal, and I missed that original flight. However, I did hustle. My car was, out of commission. I got it into a body shop. I rescheduled the next flight. I got a ride over to the airport. I caught the next flight and still made the wedding party in Denver, and then had to go back to California after all that fun to go deal with that car and the shop and all the stuff. Yeah, exactly.
So then I'm assuming Billy Joe must have calmed down before he got to you then, huh?
Well, ultimately, we were out there for, I want to say, however long it took, 45 minutes to an hour or whatnot, doing the police report. His wife was really wonderful. She and I and a 1-year-old baby.
Ooh, no wonder he was
so
mad.
Talk about father shock, upset, all those emotions he was dealing with. I was around that scene, felt bad about my part in it. I was also trying to figure out my day and my plans and the girl I was with, and trying to fix everything at the time. I mean, it was a major accident. Yeah. Adrenaline rush. That Honda Civic that I had, it was pretty wrecked up, and I liked that car. All sorts of, that was a difficult day. But, arriving in Denver and getting out to this house where my friends were at by something like 11 p.m. anyway, it was nice to kind of see the day through and kind of handle it all the best I could. But, getting back to California, dealing with the implications of who was at fault and dealing with the insurance claims and all that stuff. back in the day, that was a mess. And then later that Honda Civic, even though I got it fixed and I ran it, got into a flood. And I can still picture how when the flood occurred, my cassette tapes were floating out the door when I opened the door, because I had one of the, you remember back in the day when we'd have like cassette tapes in maybe a shoebox,
Yeah, I have
hanging out on the back seat or whatever.
I have one of the boxes right there on the floor. Watch.
Look at one of the, that's the traditional
little,
kind for organizing them nicely. Dust free. I like it. You got the good collection.
I try to keep it because it gets dusty and stuff like that.
All
I don't have
old...
my vinyl collection and my cassette collection is nowhere near what you have though, but somewhere in the 50 range maybe I have there. But it's mostly hip hop and rock and roll, like classic rock.
Nice.
A bunch of stuff. And I got a couple of actually house records from when you were doing the donations online on the KRZA's fund drive.
No kidding.
Yeah, I donated a few bucks and I got 2 of them, I think, at least.
Oh, hell
But I
yeah.
came home and I sat here and jammed them out for a while. I like doing that, though. It's almost easier. Sometimes you end up, turning on Spotify or whatever, and you end up wasting almost an hour just trying to find a song that you want to listen to.
Right.
And you end up just wasting all that time. With vinyl, you just come and throw the vinyl on and just let it play. And
right.
you could just sit here and enjoy yourself the whole time instead of trying to figure it out. It seems like with technology these days, that's what it ends up being is, you got so much of a selection to choose from that you don't know what the hell to listen to. So with vinyl, at least you know for sure what you're right off the top of the head. You're like, I know I like that one. I feel like listening to that right now.
And you just physically grab it and you put it on and the tone arm works and it's just kind of magical to
Exactly.
me. It always has been ever since I was a kid and my parents were playing records.
Yeah, I showed my girlfriend it the other day. Well, she's, she knows about vinyl and everything like that, but I think she hadn't really sat down and heard vinyl thrown on. I just threw it on and she didn't even realize I was playing vinyl,
It's funny you bring up that kind of that aspect that, oh my gosh, it's foreign.
Yeah.
Because it's so old now, and I've embraced it all my life. I've been playing records in my shop, while I'm working on my car or whatever. I like having records going, but I've never really had too much of an opportunity to have 2 turntables and a mixer and start to record. And so that's been a really fun new development. I just have always been playing these records, maybe fading them back and forth a little bit if I have a setup, but never with pitch control. But I've just been loving these records and taking good care of them the best I can. Cheesecloth, alcohol Windex, distilled water solution, dust brushes, plastic sleeves, new inner sleeves. I really try to refresh them, remove stickers. I really personalize my collection and engage with my records, and they mean a lot to me. And I get really excited when I grab a record I haven't played in a while that I know I love, these types of things. Yeah, it makes me happy to see records in your living room, Gerald. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I love having that. It's kind of like you said when you first came in, it's comforting to have that kind of around me when I'm doing anything, really.
Uh-huh. I find a lot of inspiration that the album artwork, the media itself. Some records are thin, some of them are thick, some of them are scratched. You're dealing with all sorts of just real physical stuff. Now, you've brought up Spotify a couple times, and I want to let you know that I not only just play hours and hours of records every day as much as I can, but I also jam out to Spotify relentlessly.
Yeah, a lot of us do.
I have playlists on Spotify that are 20 plus hours, and I love all those songs. And then recently I've created I think 3 new release playlists because there's so much great new music coming out that just came out that I'm just really crunching on and loving. I'm also creating playlists now on Spotify. It's a great tool as I go out and DJ. As an example, at the Dune Valley Distillery, I've set up the turntables and spinning real records over by the fire and the bar. And then over in the area with the old basketball court dance floor and stage, I'm usually blaring with my laptop a Spotify playlist that I've curated specifically for that event. So for this upcoming event, I'll simultaneously be playing a love playlist where people will be dining, and then over on the side where people are more likely to have drinks and want to dance around a live real fire, because it's a really neat ambience over there at the distillery. How many people were dancing the last time I was there when I did a little party for Sweetgrass. Therapeutics. Do you know about them?
Okay. I have heard
Like
that.
yoga studio. They just had a really nice time dancing after dinner. And what a great group. They really had fun, even with the house music. So that was a really fun event for me. I felt really grateful that they included me in on their annual get-together. And so that distillery is already a really special place for me. But I'll be doing things like that with Spotify. Since we're talking about Spotify a little bit, I absolutely love that I have access to a lot of music, especially new house music that I can't even get on vinyl.
Yeah.
Not everything's released on vinyl, and if
Exactly.
it is, and that reminds me, I've got a question for Gerald I've been thinking about. Folks, I kind of poised that question out here because I brought it up to one person, and they seemed to be savvy in the music industry, and they went, good luck with that. Like, that'll never happen. But I love records, and one of my recent concepts is if I have a little volunteer DJ radio show that comes on once a month on the fourth Saturday at 8 to 10 p.m., and I like tuning into it when I can. It's a lot of fun to hear how it sounds when Gerald has remastered it, and it's just really well done. It's a production at that point, and they do a great job over at the radio station. And so I love tuning into it myself and hearing that music that I recorded a couple years ago or whatever. I wonder, because a lot of the records I buy say promo on them.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember back in the day, the DJ would be on the radio, and the label would mail them a DJ promo of a new release. So is there any chance that any label out there might be inspired to say, oh, Jason over there in Alamosa's playing house with real records, let's send him one of these promos for those new fun house tracks that are actually being released on vinyl?
Very possible.
If I start to write them and like beg them?
I think so, because that happens with a few DJs. We have like a blues DJ named Greg Demko that also reaches out to the record labels and gets, well, it's usually CDs, but we have gotten vinyl in the past, like here and there, but it's because we didn't even ask for it. They just sent it,
Right.
But if they knew, like you said, that we're actually doing that every month, they might be more inclined to send it, I think. So I think if you did write to them, I think it's very possible.
So you think that might be an idea to develop a little bit?
Yeah.
We could give it a little test drive and see if some of my favorite artist labels
Yeah, and if you want
to
you could
send
even
me free stuff, and then we can put it on the show.
And so you could even have it sent to the radio station, so that it looks more like it's.
Well, and in fact, it would be yours. I'm just saying.
Well, no, you can still take it at the end of it all.
Get it into the shop, and then we'll record it, put it on the air, and thank the labels for sending us stuff, and they'll see that we're actually doing something with it too.
Yeah, I think that would be great. That's how it used to be back in the day too. So that would be nice to bring that back.
Why not? That was the tradition, right?
Exactly.
And I love it. I love absolutely finding the promos because I feel somehow connected to that original DJ that got it from the label for free and said, let's try that on the air. And maybe they started thinking, do I like that? Which remix do I like the most? They're playing through the options. Which one am I going to put on the air? The club edit? Is it, the dub? I love how, as a DJ, you go through these old singles and you're like, which one do I like the most? The vocal, or do I want to get into the more instrumental? They gave you a lot of options back in those days. That's another thing that I really love.
Yeah, they don't have that very often anymore. Really, people pump out music so quick these days that really there's no room for remixes or any of that unless it's a super popular song. Yeah. But for the most part, most of those songs you maybe hear once or twice and then they kind of get buried with all the rest of the music, And there's some, like I said, people can make music right from their phone these days, like a whole studio in your phone. Right. So, like things like BandLab and things like that, it's really hard to compete anymore because you're competing with a flood of different musicians,
Absolutely, and I sense that AI is playing a big part of that as well. Artists can go to a resource and they're like, man, I'm making better music than ever. And then everybody's thinking, and I've got assistance. It's going to create more music, which is really wonderful. I love how much music is out there and how much, let's say I go record shopping. As an example, I'm so into records. When I went through Dallas recently, I spent 11 hours at Josie Records.
Oh, wow.
Went through roughly 3,000 records. And that's a lot of reading labels, looking at years, trying to, decipher things because it's a little cryptic sometimes, white labels. I'm digging through bins where you find stuff that you don't normally find in the smaller towns. Josie's now boasting the largest record store in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah, after expanding an additional 10,000 square feet. So if you're into records and you haven't been to Josie, I hate to give up my secrets, but they've got a wonderful house section. I can go at it for hours at a fast and furious rate, satisfy myself that I've dug sufficiently and burned through a little test drive at the turntables up front, because they have like maybe 6 of them running. They can handle a crowd of people. Yeah, I basically clock in when the place opens and try to, clock out when the place closes and see if I can haul off some new favorite records. That's exactly what I did in November. So as of November, I've hauled back an additional 126 house records.
Wow.
I'm absolutely excited about.
I can imagine.
And so, and as an example on Spotify, I'll take that bin of records and immediately, before they even hit the turntable, I'm already going through my cleaning, sorting process, putting them in plastic sleeves, refreshing them, cleaning them up completely by hand. I don't use a disc washer or whatever, at least at this point. I'll create a Spotify playlist. But what I love about this underground house music that I go ferret out is that it's unique enough where oftentimes maybe Spotify, even though as comprehensive as it is, may only have the original or maybe one of the edits, the radio edit or something like that. There will be some great remixes out there, but they're not as common when I'm going through, let's say, my new acquisition bin out of the house section at Josie. I'm finding test pressings, original white labels, really fun stuff that is unique and a little bit hard to find at this point as far as house music goes. And I know the labels and the names that I'm looking for after all these years. So I just go through those bins as fast as I can. But to get back around to what I was saying, it's amazing how much music is out there that I've never seen before, artists I've never heard of. When I'm digging and digging and digging, it's just amazing how much music is really out there.
And it's hard to find record stores that have those different kind of records that you don't see all the time. It seems like you tend to run into the same records that nobody wants.
Yeah,
over and over, especially at the thrift shops and things like that. So to try to find actually a record store that carries stuff that you actually are looking for, because I just ran into some stuff myself at What's Left Records over there in Colorado Springs, and that's a really good record store too. It's not real huge, but it's all the stuff they have there is like selections that you wouldn't find anywhere else. I just got the greatest hits of The Offspring recently.
That one right there?
Yeah, I just got that one recently over there, and that was a really good one.
That caught my eye. That's so cool.
Yeah, I love that one. You could sit there and listen to it all the way through, both sides. And
I love albums like that.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of do. I'm like really picky about what I get because I don't have a whole lot of room. So I'm like, every record I get, it has to be like a banger all the way through from the beginning to the end. Because if I can't listen to it all the way through, it's just kind of taking up space,
I love that standard. And there is an actual section in my collection that is in alignment with that. And let's say Sublime 40 Ounce Freedom was playing that one earlier today over at work. And
it's a great one.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many great albums. That's neat that you've refined your collection to that standard, because I love when you can have a whole album that you play all the way through. Another one that I really like is that old Massive Attack album. I pulled it out because I'm going to play One Love, I think, over on Valentine's Day.
That's awesome. What's your favorite record out of your collection, if you could even pick one out of all that? One that you just definitely would never get rid of, and if you lost it, you would rebuy it?
Yeah, so I'm pretty good about the whole possessions thing. If I was wiped out or if we all got flooded or something like that, I mean, this is part of life, and sometimes as a community you deal with large losses, sometimes catastrophic. With any luck, I don't melt or warp or drop or lose my collection to any natural event or theft or something, like that. I guess to answer your question, though, one of the ones I've been going back to lately, and it kind of is in alignment with the last time I DJ'd the SLV T-Spot. I don't think I've talked about that yet, but that's at 407 State Avenue in Alamosa, right there at 4th and State.
Yeah, kind of a new spot.
Sweet B, Manny over there is doing a really fantastic job. It's a little black and white tile floor. It's great for just hanging out, playing music, doing a little dancing. We're going to be doing a live event this Saturday night from 8 until midnight at the SLV T-Spot. When I say we, I mean Rabbit Road, my friend Bothy, really awesome. Just genius electronic musician. It's reminiscent of the stuff I've been collecting that I'm just absolutely in love with since the early 90s. He reminds me of like Space-Time Continuum and Freaky Chakra and Single Cell Orchestra, maybe Future Sounds of London. He'll change pitch. He'll like just warp things. I feel like he is in control of some spaceship, and I love that vibe. He's so much fun. I totally want to support everything he's doing. Anytime he invites me out to maybe spin records before, after, while he's setting up, whatever, I'm going to try to set up and hang out and enjoy his show and be really grateful that he's wanted me to even be a part of it, because what he's doing is phenomenal. And from what I understand, he got his hands on a really nice new Roland piece of equipment.
Oh, wow.
And I have a feeling he's upped his game a little bit. He's going to be throwing down some sounds that are even bigger and better than before. So I've seen him twice now live, and I've just been loving it. Like, I was really stunned when I first heard him play at 407 State Suite A, where my friend Amy J. Lopez has her salon called Lifted, which reminds me, we're going to do a 1-year anniversary event over at Amy's place on February 21st. So that'll be a fun night over there, just across the street from the Friars Fork and the Sanctuary. If you're familiar with that spot, she's part of that complex that James Sue has. Really nice building where the Jade mural is. You might remember. Did you know we did the Jade mural event?
I seen it, but I didn't get a chance to go to it. And all the murals are fantastic, all back there.
Oh yeah. Maybe we can comment on that a little bit.
Yeah.
The Alamosa Chamber of Commerce really did something great, in my opinion. They came up with something called the 100-Year Project, and that means that they offered up to the local business owners, if you want to be a part of this, we're going to do 10 murals. Each mural represents a different decade. There you go, 100 years covered. It immediately got attention and sponsored. Jade probably be right at the front saying that's a great idea, count me in. And so their mural went up at 407 State. As of this week, I noticed they're doing a little electric there, because I think they're even taking the time and resources to install nice ambient lighting to showcase it. The theme there is really amazing, especially if you're visiting town and you want to do a selfie. Go by the Jade mural. It's going to be well lit. It's a fun, interactive mural where you can get your pictures in front of maybe your favorite theme for the area. And so I'd encourage you to go check that out. Wonderful piece of artwork. I was fortunate enough to do a little volunteer painting out there with some of the others that chipped in, along with the wonderful design crew that painted personally the mural that came out from Portland. Brandon and Shay and Kat, really wonderful folks, and just did a fantastic job from start to finish. Truly amazing.
Well, that's great. I like how you're like involved even with the other stuff that doesn't have to do with DJing. You kind of are pretty in tune with the community, it seems like, because every time I talk to you, you know about events that I don't even know about yet.
Well, I really have had a good time exploring. You reminded me, I had a friend of mine laughing at me the other day because he said it's amazing how many people you know and how much you're involved in, and you don't have social media. And that was the thing that he thought was, you know, kind of a quirk, like a little interesting. Like, how do you know these people?
Yeah, you're physically going out there and meeting these people.
I just run into all these people that are just truly wonderful. One of the gals that I've been talking to lately, as an example, Terry, out in Monte Vista, has an apothecary. And I think we're going to do a little DJ thing out there, just get a little interest. I love promoting people's places. So if you've got a great place and you want to have me out spin some records, let's talk about your place. Maybe lock in a recording, maybe line it up in the queue at KRZA, and when it comes on the air, you can be like, that's when Jason was out and we were spinning records here. It was so much fun.
Yeah. How do they get a hold of you if they do want to do something like that?
So I've been handing out my number personally. I don't know if on a podcast is the appropriate platform to just put out my personal number, but that's usually how I handle things.
It's up to you how you want to do that. If not, you could always give an email too.
I appreciate that. So I'm curious, because of KRZA, can people potentially call into KRZA and you say, you know what, I'm going to put you in touch with Jason. We keep a little notepad here. Is that possible?
I think that might even be an easier way, so you're not giving out your number to the whole world.
Well, then I'll tell you what. I think at this point, since I've kept things personal without social media, I don't have anything to hide. I mean, I had something like 500 plus connections on LinkedIn when I was still in my professional career. I love the community. I have been, well embraced by the community. I just am not that active on my computer, my phone, my email these days. I have a few friends. They text me. They call me. We're doing things, and I like to stay active and just not too much on my computer and phone so much, unless it's Spotify playing. Yeah. I love listening to music these days. So for what it's worth, that's just kind of my lifestyle lately. And so I would encourage you to do a couple things. If you're a business owner, if you have a nice house, I've thought about things like if you're a real estate agent and you want to showcase a house that hasn't sold yet and you want to do an open house and you want to just light the place up with some loud music and see what happens. Maybe somebody buys it. Maybe somebody wants to have a housewarming party a month later and I DJ that for their friends and family. I don't know what's going to happen next. You call the radio station and inquire about me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. We can talk about what you'd like to do if you want. And I encourage you to make a donation to the radio station. We do these wonderful fund drives. If you don't know, over at KRZA, local nonprofit in Alamosa, I think this podcast might reach people outside the normal radio station. But call into this radio station that does a wonderful job in Alamosa, Colorado, reaches all the way down to Taos, New Mexico, where like the mothership is at. Mm-hmm. There's music going on all over the valley up to Sawash, Crestone, these areas, right? I hear you talking to people doing stuff out in Creed, La Vida, out at the Yacht Club. There's all sorts of fun places to go see live music out here and see what's going on. So call into KRZA, make a donation, say, have Jason give me a call, and I will, and we can talk about what you want to do.
And you could do that at 719-589-8844. That's KRZA, and yeah, just ask for Jason Maclean. And we'll get you all situated, like you said.
That's awesome of you. Thanks for allowing me to do that.
Oh, definitely. I think it's awesome what you're doing out there, so I want to definitely support it as much as I can. Well, and hopefully this podcast kind of gets some people to know you more than all the people already know you.
How awesome is that? Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to do something like this and share, because one of the things I thought about when you invited me out to do this podcast is that I've been reluctant to do much talking at all on my show on your station. The House at Last show in concept was exactly what I was serving up for myself. My records that I love without anybody talking, without any commercials. And everybody out there who's listening, Gerald was gracious enough to invite me in immediately, grasp that concept, and say, you know what, as long as you're not playing something like more than 3 tracks off of any record. And I said, no big deal, I'm playing 1 track off of each record. He said, yeah, you don't have to do much talking. I thought it was appropriate to be able to allow the audience, whoever was tuning in, to hear what they were listening to if they were curious, if it was foreign to them and they did want to know, and maybe Shazam wasn't working or whatnot. So I limited it best I could to about 1 minute at the beginning of the show and 1 minute at the end, where you'll hear my voice try to cram in the information. But otherwise, what you're getting is back-to-back tracks mixed up the best I can with the vinyl and the mixer, 2 turntables. And so that's what I was doing for myself. That's exactly what you're getting with limited talking. But this is an opportunity to kind of fill in that blank so people understand. In concept, I just love the music. Just give me the music is my basic concept. But it's nice to take time out and relax with a friend and just talk about what you love and what you're doing. And I really appreciate the opportunity to do that, and now it fills in that blank. Like we do a little talking every once in a while.
Yeah, there we go. And it was great to have you as a guest. I mean, we always get to have these long chats anyway when we're just hanging out. So this is kind of cool to do this on the air, and then get people to know you as much as I'm kind of getting to know you too. So appreciate you, man. And this has been
I appreciate that, and thank you for those who have tuned in. And I look forward to receiving maybe a few calls at the radio station. I look forward to being in contact with more great people in this region.
Mm-hmm. You've been listening to Word, the podcast. I'm your host, G-Stylez, and big thank you to Jason Maclean for being here with us today. Hopefully have you on another episode here in the near future, where we can talk a little bit more. I know you have a bunch of other stories, too, we can get into, but we don't have enough time this go around. But
let's do this again sometime. Thank you, Gerald.
Thank you very much,
You're absolutely amazing, just like always, and thanks for the podcast.
Thank you, too, and thank you to everybody out there for listening, and we'll catch you in the next go-around.
Yeah. Word. Wanna hear it, wanna talk about it. Word. Wanna hear it, wanna talk about it. Know it's all about the word. You know it's word.